Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, folks, great show today. A little technical issues there. Mildred was liquored up while walking around in her bathrobe this morning, stepped on a couple of cables, and messed up Studio One here from the Cherry Farm. But Rob Browne with a great lineup. Frank Duffy, whereabouts unknown. I'm not sure where New Orleans, that's right. Dave Tompkins, I guess in the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina. Doug Dean in the Magic City of Birmingham, going to be joining us in just a moment. Got a lot to talk about today. Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, will be on in the second segment to join in with this roundtable. Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com, will check in the second hour. Always love to get his wit and wisdom. He wrote a great piece on Anthony Richardson, number 4 pick in the draft, just about him, his career, growing up in Gainesville, and a lot of people pulling for him. He only has 13 starts under his belt. So let's just say he's got a lot of work to do, but hopefully Indianapolis is going to be the right fit for him, like it is with any quarterback. And, you know, you get up there, if you don't have the right fit, the right everything that you need, it is very, very difficult to make it as a quarterback, especially at the quarterback position in the NFL. But we're here 6 days a week, 25 times a month, at least 50 hours plus a month of content. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. A couple of things to remember, folks. The First Amendment is ardently and fervently protected here on Sidelines. The right of free speech and assembly. We talk about what we talk about. We have an alpha male culture that thrives on history, traditions, and heroes. If it has to do with sports, it's fair game, okay? We ain't candy assing anything. We're going after it. We're going to get to the truth. We're going to get to the bottom of the truth. And here's how I see it. Men compete against men, and women compete against women, and 1 + 1 = 3. So let's bring on our esteemed colleagues. Major Dave Tompkins. What was your rank when you stepped aside from the military?
I never made it to major. Good morning.
How are you?
I got out as a captain.
Okay. So bottom line, you were helping to deploy Pershing missiles in the late 80s during the Cold War time. So you thrive on pressure, don't you?
There was some pressure there. The good news is I got to handpick all my soldiers, so I was basically like Nick Saban, and I could recruit, I could handpick, and I could field a team, and didn't have to coach as well as Nick has to coach. Yeah, absolutely. And bottom line is, Frank, we're going to be talking some horses today. I love this. The Derby is next weekend, and we're over here at the Cherry Farm. Got back over here last night from Memphis, and it was pouring down rain. It just stopped. And, you know, they're going to run the Derby in any circumstances. But Frank and Doug Dean is on with us now, just making sure Doug is eating, looks like he's eating a granola bar, Doug's a health snack guy. But we got one Birmingham, Beaufort, South Carolina, New Orleans. I'm in Memphis. Rodney Orr is going to check in in about 30 minutes from Tuscaloosa, Tighter Insider. But we've got a lot to talk about today. The Derby's coming up. Frank, do you have one of your horses one day? Is that your dream, to run in the Derby?
Oh, of course. Well, first of all, good morning, Rob. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Doug. Good seeing y'all. Happy Jazz Fest Saturday. First weekend
Absolutely.
of Jazz Fest down here in New Orleans. We're enjoying ourselves. But as Dave can see over my shoulder, I've got my Derby flag flying here in the balcony in the French Quarter. I've got my Derby. Now, it is technically a Louisiana Derby flag, but it will work for next week as well. But to answer your question, Rob, yes, unless there's some crazy COVID thing which shuts down Churchill Downs and the rest of the world, they run them. Rain, slop, mud, heat, sun, good fashions, bad fashions, great bourbon, all of it. It's all a wonderful concoction at at Churchill Downs for Derby Day. And I will tell you, the Jazz Fest is actually where we run our horses here in New Orleans at the fairgrounds. That is where the Jazz Fest is every year. It's on the infield at the fairgrounds. So horses are woven into our Southern culture. They really are. From Kentucky, where the bourbon's made, all the way down here to New Orleans, where it is mass consumed. So I am looking forward. Me and my buddies are heading to Louisville on Wednesday. I will be there for the Derby, which is now a really big thing. Thursday's become very big. Dave will tell you that wasn't always the case, but now you want to get in for Thursday. And of course, the running of the Oaks, wearing your pink in respect of those that are fighting breast cancer on Friday. And then, of course, on Saturday for the absolutely greatest 2 minutes in sports, with all due respect to LSU beating Alabama last year up in Baton Rouge, which was the greatest 6 seconds in sports.
Well, Doug, you just heard that great opening statement by Frank. And what the hell are you drinking out of? That is a good-looking mug.
That's my Mardi Gras colors, baby.
That is beautiful. That's beautiful.
I got a better-looking mug, Rob.
That's what I'm screaming.
Hey, by the way, if you can do something with yellow and orange, you're doing something.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good to see the great Dave Compton a week out. I bet the hair on the neck, back of his neck, standing up this close to the Derby. And always good to see you, Duff, and the legendary Rob Browne, who likes to yell at clouds during this show at times.
Duff, I'm
not sure how good your computer is, the resolution, but as regards this color shirt I'm wearing, I want to be very clear that it's periwinkle. It's not some LSU purple, right?
I was beginning to wonder. Yeah. I was beginning to wonder. Guys, you think about the sporting events that we have. We got the Final Four. The next weekend, you got the Masters. Over where you live, Dave, and then next week, the Heritage Golf Classic. It is a great time of the year. There are 11 races at the Derby, Dave Tompkins. You were the chairman up at Churchill Downs. Give me the crowd size, the infield, the whole setting. And where do these people come from? And is it a lot of family tradition tailgating out there that goes on?
Well, it all starts tonight. Tonight is opening night. There'll probably be 40,000 people there tonight. I think the first post time is 6 o'clock. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 5 o'clock, but you race into the evening. That's been a tradition now about 15 years old. So it really gets the whole week started. Then they have the post position draw on Wednesday, and Frank will be up in Louisville maybe to witness that. And that's where the field of 20, where they get basically the placed, and and then that's what really gets the betting odds started. This year there is a prohibitive favorite, Forte, but if he gets a bad post position, then that'll change the odds. Thursday is a new thing, Derby. It used to be that Friday was sort of the locals' day, Oaks Day, but now Friday is an international day in celebration of women, and the primary race for fillies, the Oaks race. So now Derby, Thursday, is now a big day for the locals. And that's where the locals and their families go and really enjoy the experience. Some great races then. And then, of course, Saturday is the Derby. So it is, there'll probably be 115, 120,000 people on Oaks Day and upwards of 160 or 170,000 people there on Derby Day. Huge crowd in the infield. The infield is a far different experience than the Turf Club and Millionaires Row and the Mansion. But it's the way you get started at Derby as it's a of age, hint, hint, wink, wink, of age college student or high school student. So it's just a fantastic week.
Is it three? What's funny is in the competitive hunting dog circuits, you've got the Derby, for the dogs that are 2-year-olds. And the field champions, national amateur field champion, all that. This is 3-year-olds, correct? At the Kentucky Derby? Okay.
Yeah. So the whole Triple Crown series, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, which is 2 weeks from Derby, and then the Belmont 3 weeks after Preakness. They're all for 3-year-olds. And that's a great tradition for the sport. But it's been a challenge, in my opinion, in exporting the sport to the general public, because you have to pay very close attention, because you only get 1 year to look at these horses running the premier races.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave, Doug Dean here.
And really,
I got a tip from somebody really
only
knows.
hit the track in late fall.
Dave, I need your expertise here, Dave. I got a tip on the third race to put all I've got on Lucky Dan. Can you help me with that?
Just hope you didn't get the tip from Henry Gondorf.
What a great!
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But if it was it Doyle Lonigan? Was that the Robert Shaw, the bad guy they took down?
Lonigan. The name is Lonigan. Doyle.
You follow?
Lonigan. You follow?
I love some of these handicappers. They got names like, Jimmy the Knife, Vinny the Weasel.
Black Cat Lacombe.
Yeah,
here in the fairgrounds for years and years. The tout sheet guy, Black Cat Lacombe.
Yeah,
you can't get a better
Belmont
name.
Aqueduct. There was Tony Bananas, a very famous guy. That's the beautiful part about the sport, is that these characters that I don't think exist in any other sport.
Damon Runyon couldn't do it justice. The characters that you see at the track. And you're right, Rob. My first Derby was 1989. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Sunday Silence and Easy Goer, just in their duel. Pat Day had won 6 races going into the Derby. Me and my buddy loaded up everything on Easy Goer. We thought he was going to get his 7th. Sunday Silence nipped him by a nose. But I was hooked ever since. Juleps have been in my blood every year. I love this thing. Everyone is a Kentuckian come Derby week.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's what's so cool, Dave, what you're talking about. The horses that are there, there's 20 horses that go to the line. And we talk about this, but think about all the great parallels that we've heard in sports about horse racing. Coach Dye's famous one about winning. Sooner or later, the race goes to the horse who thinks he can, putting the blinders on. And Doug and Frank, I mean, we've never done it, but have you ever walked up to the actual line at the Kentucky Derby, Dave, and been able to stand there? I want to describe what that's like, because as a viewer, and I love to watch this event, and riding horses is an American birthright.
Yeah, I used to actually when I would work out many days, I would actually jog around the track, and kind of being the hopeless romantic that I am, I would start my jog, where the horses start, and just kind of imagine, the race. Today is the marathon up in Louisville, and I used to run the mini marathon, the half marathon, and as part of the race, you run around the track, and that is so cool. To like, with all the runners, people there cheering you on, and you kind of get a human experience that the horse and the jockey get a week later. And it's for anyone that does distance running, I'd highly encourage you to run the mini marathon or the marathon in Louisville, which is always the week before Derby.
Well, the closest thing, the Heart of Dixie Triathlon in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the closing last 2 laps, you run around where they do the carriage rides down there at the show. It's not quite the Kentucky Derby, but when you get through, they have all the people from the local orthopedic clinic that give you massages, and they give you plates of spaghetti and cold beer. Pretty good deal. But Doug, I want you and Frank to go up there and run that thing.
No. The real marathon is getting through about a half dozen lilies, and then your Derby's juleps the next day. All I'm gonna tell you is about 4 or 5 years ago, on our way to Morton's Steaks, which is our traditional Friday night haunt, as we were leaving Churchill Downs, again, I shouldn't say this with law enforcement. I will say we took an Uber. There was a bag.
Yeah.
There was a bag. I'm not kidding. There had to be at least 90 Lily's glasses in there, and I can walk y'all in. After the next break, I'm going to walk you into my apartment here in the Bataba building, and I'm going to show you the glasses that I use for every cocktail party here at my apartment, or my Willie's glasses and my Derby's glasses. That's a true marathon, Rob.
You wake up Saturday morning in Louisville on Derby Day, and your first words in your mind, you're talking to yourselves, I can't do it. I can't do it today. I'm spent, and I'm going to feel really bad tomorrow. But then you say, you know what? Push on through, and let's have a Bloody Mary. Let's get started, and then let's get to the track.
That first sip of Woodford Reserve on a Saturday morning is exactly the hair of the dog that you need for all those vodka drinks the day before. And since they went to all you can eat and all you can drink, it ramped everything up a notch.
Dave, I got to make you travel agent for a second if you're kind enough. I still have the Derby to check off of my bucket list, but I hope it happens. The plan is next May, but my question is it feasible or practical to make it a 3 or 4, even 5-day trip and do the Bourbon Trail?
Yeah, what I would recommend, all right, travel hat on. So next year is the 150th Derby. So it'll be the biggest thing that's ever happened in Kentucky. So it'll be priced accordingly. And so Kimberly and I are thinking about going, and if we go, we're just going to go all in and spend a week or more there, and just it's going to be our vacation for the next number of years. And I would do the Bourbon Trail. I would go to some of the parties that begin tonight. And just there's a parallel event called the Kentucky Derby Festival, and there's 8 or 10 events going on every day, and we can kind of talk offline about it. But yeah, I would go all in. It's the way to experience Derby anyway, but particularly next year when it's the 150th.
Yeah, hold that thought. This is unbelievable. 150th coming up. We're going to be right back. Dave Tompkins, Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, right after this quick commercial message. Yeah, we will. We'll do that. Guys, we are back here right now. And you talk about the 150th anniversary of the Kentucky Derby coming up. Wow, it's 1873. That's right.
1875.
Okay, 1875.
It's been run every year since 1875. I hope I'm doing my math correctly, but and it did run in the COVID year. They delayed it until I think September.
Yeah. Dave, you don't, you were talking about this year, there's a prohibitive favorite. Historically, you don't particularly want to be the favorite, do you?
Yeah, it's kind of random. the prohibitive favorite wins less than half the time. And when they win, they usually win going away. But so many factors, where their position draw is,
Correct.
whether it's a fast track or a sloppy track. What's really interesting about this year is there are a million people smarter at this than I am, but I don't think the field is as strong this year as it was last year. Last year was an extraordinarily strong field, and the absolute most underdog won the race in fascinating fashion. This year, this field is not as strong, I don't think, but all of the favorites are all kind of what they call stalkers. They don't take the early lead. Right. They just kind of hang back. So what that might mean is it's going to be kind of a slow pace to get things started. And then come the third turn, horses are just going to go nuts. And it can be just a heck of a finish coming down the stretch.
And a lot of the preps, Dave, were slow fractions as well. So that's the MO of this group. Like you said, a lot of stalkers, which is why I love my closer. Angel of Empire is the horse that I see coming off the edge, basically in that turn.
That's my pick too.
And all the jockeying is going to be a slow enough pace to where it can actually kick in. I think Forte, I'll use him on my third and fourth line because he's that good of a horse. But Rob and Doug, to y'all's point as well, the other thing that makes it hard for these favorites is what type of trip are you going to get? Mm-hmm. Everything comes down to how that jockey circumnavigates 20 to 22 horse. Sometimes back when they had the auxiliary gate, I mean, they filled up the first gate and have to go to the auxiliary gate. So it just depends on how many horses, how the race is won. To Dave's point, how far out are they? You don't want to be way far out, but you don't want to be on the rail either, right? You want to be in that nice sweet pocket of, say 3 to 8 to 9. That way you can get to the rail, because don't forget, they come out of that chute and they got to go around to the finish line to come back around again. So it really comes down to what that trip is like, and that's why a lot of favorites get bottled in and they don't make it.
Three reasons.
You get a horse coming on the end. Yeah.
3 reasons to go for Angel of Empire, for Frank's horse. One is Frank's horse, and that's actually was my pick as I was looking at the field this morning, really? Getting ready for the yep. Another reason is the race that won was the Arkansas Derby right down the road from Rob. So that was a big race, and then third, it's a Pennsylvania horse, and Barbaro was a Pennsylvania horse. And it would be fantastic for another Pennsylvania horse to win in the wake of Barbaro's win and ultimate tragedy.
I didn't remember that angle. That's a cool angle. I knew it was Pennsylvania bred. That's cool.
Here's a question: the Grand Slam in golf, and Doug is a scratch golfer, and I think Dave is as well. I'm not sure about that. You got the Grand Slam in tennis. You got the Grand Slam in golf. The PGA, the U.S. Open, the British Open, and the Masters. Question is, give me the 3 or the 4. You mentioned the Arkansas Derby over at Hot Springs, which, by the way, a side note, Doug Dean and guys, if you're ever in Hot Springs, you'll go through a town called Benton, Arkansas. Do yourself and take the tour. They have a guided tour. You can go to the Frosty Cream, the Washateria. That's where they filmed the movie Sling Blade. Good beat in there. You can get the tour. And it's very cheap.
Hey, Dave, I hesitate to enter this subject, but it's in the air in recent years. And I think most of our viewers, listeners, are where I am, which is we know enough to be dangerous about the subject and controversy of drug testing of these thoroughbreds. And can you kind of give us a primer? Classy people say primer, Duff, not primer. And
well,
that means how real is it? How nitpicking are the thresholds for these tests and so on?
Yeah, this is a non-expert opinion, but the sport really has two I'm always going to say Nick Saban because I'm an Alabama fan. So the sport has 2 Nick Sabans. One is Todd Pletcher, who's the trainer for Forte. And the other is Bob Baffert, who will not be there next week because he has been banned from Churchill Downs for 2 years for repeated drug violations.
He's in timeout.
Yeah, and it's similar to human athletes. It's always been a shifting bar, and one day something's legal and the next day it's not. It depends by state. The horse racing, thoroughbred racing, has a very, very complicated governance model. There's no real league, so there can't be league rules. And so, if you're not super smart, you can inject your horse with something and it works in Kentucky, but it doesn't work in New York or Florida. So it's but there historically there's been it's sort of more of a 3 strikes and you're out sort of thing, and so really punitive punishment usually is only reserved for folks that are multiple violations.
And Bob Baffert is on like his 8th strike. And let me tell you something. When you're found doping and you've won the Kentucky Derby and they have to take down that horse and present it to a second horse, the year after another horse, because of contact in the stretch, also gets taken down. That was really bad timing, Bob Baffert, to have that found out post race.
Yeah, and that's it. And I share your opinion, Frank. And but some years it's just bad luck. Take the year of Big Browne. Big Browne won the Derby and the Preakness in pretty much overwhelming fashion, and then the rule changed between the Preakness and the Belmont, and so he couldn't be injected with I forget what the steroid was, but then he finished last place in the Belmont.
The steroid, you might want to ask the East German trainers or the Chinese women's swimmers trainers.
Dave, let me get pharmacological for a second. And I don't have a degree in it. I'm one of those liberal arts and MBA majors, but for the most part, are these steroids or other? I think I remember that some of these drugs almost are like an antihistamine, but are they aimed at improving the breathing and oxygenation for these horses?
Yeah, it's. There's some bad stuff that they can inject them to make them run faster, but mostly it's for their recovery and just biology and breathing and the drugs that if they were for humans they would be okay because they're not making them stronger or faster.
Yeah. Well, Rodney Orr is going to be back on with us Monday. He had a laptop issue, so we're going to be bringing him on Monday morning. I was going to get him, Dave. I don't know if you're a subscriber to Tighter Insider, but it's $48 a year. You need to be a subscriber. And Rodney will be on with us Monday morning. Been having some issues. He has an Android, and there's just it's above my pay grade. But I've got the people in the research department working on it.
You couldn't dispatch Mildred to him in time.
No, wait, y'all got $10 million Crimson waterfalls over there? Y'all can't get iPhones?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I've learned some things with Nigel. Androids and iPhones. It's like Blackberries and iPhones. Some people still I don't even think they make Blackberries anymore, but we'll get it worked out. Rod, hey, Dave, whether you're an Alabama fan or not, that's a great site to subscribe to. Rodney Orr, Gary Harris do a great show. Check it out also, WVUA TV 23. And this is sponsored by the May Veterinary Clinic since 1964 in Tuscaloosa and North.
I asked them if I could come on and do an interview last November 9th, but they wouldn't let me come on.
Hey, no, they have a hell of a forum. And Doug Dean's probably seen it before, and it gets pretty lively on there. But Dave, as an Alabama fan and just a fan of football, Tighter Insider is the best. I
always love getting on with Yancey Porter after LSU beats Ole Miss. I was hoping to get Insider last year too.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a fun. Yancey will be back on with us this week. Get back on; he'll be fun. Doug, here.
Rob, is football talk allowed on here since we're almost in May?
Absolutely. Hey, it's the Saturday round table, man. We're on the front porch of the general store. Ike Godsey presiding.
I've got a proverbial hot take that Dave Tompkins is going to love as a good Bama man. But in the wake of the yet another NFL draft, I was thinking, it's nothing new at all especially in the SEC and the big time programs across the country, let's say the top 30 or 40, but brutally so here in the deep South, that there is negative recruiting. And not many coaches will own the fact that happens behind the scenes with top recruiting. But it's part of it.
One in particular.
And I was thinking, Dave, it's virtually impossible right now, if I'm any other coach, to negatively recruit Alabama. I mean, here's the problem you got. You can say to a player, well, with all these, what did they have between Bryce Young, Will Anderson third, and was Jahmyr Gibbs, where did he go, top 10 or 15?
12.
12, same difference. Yeah. You can't say to them, they're not going to get you the NFL. That's a long established, and I think that is the real juice in how Saban's recruiting so well year in, year out. But then you can say, well, they're so good, you won't get playing time because these kids say that none of these kids believe, if they're a 4-star or better, that they are that player that will have to wait till their junior year. They just don't believe it. So, and meanwhile, if you can negatively recruit Kirby a little bit for now. You can say, well, Kirby can't get an NFL in the top 3 or 4 picks and a quarterback in the top picks in the draft, and he didn't. And I don't know where Stetson been. He might get on a team, but I don't think he's built to have a long NFL career. So about all you got left, Dave, is, well, do you really want to play for that 80-year-old man, Nick Saban?
Well, I mean, look at Jalen Hurts. That's the perfect example where he is now. I guess Lamar Jackson now has a higher $1 million more a year, 52 to 51 or something, $1 million a year contract. But Jalen had his career, great career at Alabama, and then got benched to Tua, and then goes to Oklahoma, and that's what's happening now more and more, is that folks are starting off at Alabama, and then they're transferring somewhere else and starring. So that's a path to the NFL.
And yet the irony, sorry if I walked in, the irony this year, which happens, you player evaluate, if 9 NFL teams in 2017 could miss it on Patrick Mahomes, he went 10. And that's still pretty high, for God's sake. But quarterback evaluations are even dicier at the college level, from high school to college, or even transferring now. So I don't think it's really ironic that Saban chose or felt he needed to go into the portal and grab the guy from Notre Dame with all the quarterback recruiting they've had.
Yeah, I didn't watch the spring game, so I can't. I'm not qualified to have an opinion. But from what I heard, the quarterback play was underwhelming. The backup, was challenged last year when Bryce was hurt, and so I guess Coach Saban just figured he had to hedge his bets and go to the portal.
Last comment, I'm sorry to dominate, guys, but the draft, as it plays into what is there to learn in SEC ball and college ball, the curious case of Anthony Richardson went 4th. And I'll tell you, that if I'm Billy Napier, I feel kind of conflicted. I want to wish the kid well, but if they give him some mechanics and he plays well, then it's not the best look for Napier in terms of QB development.
It's kind of like Gus Malzahn with Malik Willis.
Yeah, he looks like Dean Smith.
Yeah. But let me say this, Dave, got a question for you from one of our listeners. This is an interesting question here. Slim Whitman in
Slim Whitman.
The wide world of sports is going on here. He says
we're supposed to be building a railroad.
No, that's Slim Pickens. You talking about Slim Whitman?
Slim Whitman, the great country singer, along with Boxcar Willie. Slim Whitman says, here it is, a great question. He said, ask Dave Tompkins if he's a member or has ever played Secession Golf Course in Beaufort. He said it's all walking, top shelf club. And
yes,
have you?
No, I've been invited, and I'll be playing there very soon. It's a beautiful, beautiful place about 10 minutes from where I live. It is all walking. It's golf the way it's meant to be. I belong somewhere else. Unfortunately, I didn't get here in time because it's pretty much closed now for new local members. It's all national members now. in terms of new membership coming in. So I need some local folks to I guess move on to their reward before I can be considered for admission. But yes, I am looking so forward to playing there.
And it's a quick trip up to Hilton Head, so
Yeah,
you got all the great golf you want, right?
Yeah, there's no shortage of golf in the Low Country for sure.
Right.
no, and Doug, jump in. We're going to be in a break in about a minute 20.
Yeah, and he can continue after the break because Duff is like me; he struggles with brevity. But he's so energetic; it's more forgivable with Duff than me. But Duff, give me your forecast of the LSU Tigers this coming football season.
We are very excited. I think Jaden Daniels, and you saw that in the spring game. He is playing with a lot of confidence. Last year he was coming in, he was new, just came in out of the portal, trying to figure out the system. Now all of a sudden you have all those incredible physical tools, those talents. He's starting to stretch the field more, which you saw him do really starting in the Alabama game.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the physical attributes, but now you have a comfort level of an understanding of the offense and of being a leader. And we've got talent around him. We've always had talent around him. The offensive line will be better, and our defense is going to be just incredible next year. So we're very high on the season coming up. We feel like we can
hold the thought. We're
Right.
going to come right back at a break because we had Jock Doucet on from WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge this week. Talked a lot about Jaden Daniels' progress. More right after this. Let me say something about one of our sponsors, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. Late notice here, but come to the class this morning, 10:45 a.m. Central. Rumble Boxing Gym located 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, corner of Union and McLean, right across from Walgreens. Tell others on the show. Spots are available for this class. The GM, Katie Veach, is teaching. I took her class last week. Have to come by 10:15 a.m. to get signed up and geared up if not already a member. Also, man, I'll tell you right now, we did the Rumble Boxing Gym class last week. Audrey and I did, and I'm going to do it more and more. And whatever you're doing, swimming, biking, running, whatever, you throw boxing, calisthenics, and that intense level in there. Dave, you know what they call the circus. Sometimes when you mess up in training in the military, everybody's going to go through the circus. And no matter how much you make your bed perfect or your sheets perfect to your bed, it's never good enough. The instructors will always find something wrong with it. But rumbleboxinggym.com, check them out on the website, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. Proud to have them as a sponsor, as we are at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Because of the storm, the tornado that hit March 31st, Ford and Toyota have sent them a lot of inventory. I think they were getting 12 Toyota Tacoma trucks, which is a great truck. Michael Sagg, one of the members of the Cherry Farm, drives a Tacoma, four-wheel drive. You will not get stuck in a Toyota Tacoma. And the new Toyota Sports Series truck is incredible. It's got a safe built into it with a combination. You can't take it away unless you'd have to steal the entire chassis of the car. But Red River Ford Toyota.com, service department open on Saturdays till 12:30. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, Dave Tompkins. This is an awesome round table, so feel free to walk around the cabin. The unfasten your seatbelt signs are on.
I didn't fasten my seatbelt when we first came on, Rob, so you'll have Hey, Duff. So if I followed you, Duff, there's not a single weakness on the entire LSU chart. No, I'm teasing. But you would have to – I would think that this is kind of Captain Obvious that the LSU road trip to you-know-where in T-Town is likely to be the head-to-head tiebreaker for the West. You guys agree?
LSU Bama this year.
Yeah.
I mean, on the field, a lot of people will tell you in the last 15 years, talent-wise, it's been the best rivalry. Alabama, right now, they don't know who the quarterback is. But I like what Roman Harper said on the show with us last week. You know, Nick Saban's gotten it right every time. So in Nick, we trust. But they may go to the portal. Why did the Notre Dame quarterback come visit? Because he knows Tommy Rees, Dave Tompkins.
Yep. I think he'll stay there, and I think he'll probably be our quarterback. I get to see LSU live twice this year. I'll be in Tuscaloosa for that game, and then I'll be in Baton Rouge to watch my Army Black Knights give it their all.
Yeah, right.
and try to keep it competitive for a quarter or two.
Army's coming in. The old Paul Diesel game.
The one thing you'll get out of Army is a full 60. They will play their asses off. I mean, and they are. I've got a friend, Tim Horton, who's running backs coach at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, one of your rivals. And they call it the submarine, the training complex down below. And it is, he said, you don't have to worry about things that you have to worry about at other schools. You are getting the cream of the crop. Dave, you've been a request here from Jim Neighbors, Sylacauga, Alabama. And he says, ask Dave if he can tell a couple of John Forney stories. John Forney, Alabama football, brought to you by Bromberg's Jewelers, our proud sponsor, Mountain Brook Village, and around the state of Alabama.
Their own 25-yard line. Here is Stedman Shealy. So before there was an Eli Gold and a Nick Saban, there was a John Forney and Coach Bryant, and he was the play-by-play, the voice of the Tide for all of Coach Bryant's years at Alabama. They basically mirrored each other, and I was fortunate enough to know him. Wonderful, wonderful man, and he actually came to my graduation at West Point. And every year there's a Forney Award. He has a great, very, very famous West Point graduate. And he came up to present the Forney Award. That was one and only time that he did it. So it was a true honor for me to have him at my graduation. I got to meet Paul Feinbaum with Mr. Forney, and you know, he had a love of minutia like the four of us have. So we used to love to swap stories and quiz each other on Alabama minutia.
Hey, Dave, you'll just literally I need to have you guys over when you're in Birmingham. We'll cook a steak at my house in Vestavia. But the 2 doors down from me, since we moved here in November, is at first I was shocked to learn who my neighbor was, but the great Jerry Duncan, who did color work on the sidelines with Forney, and Jerry wouldn't mind me impersonating him a little. Well, Doug, I'll tell you, the problem is Alabama.
Thank you very much, sir, for that insightful comment.
I love it. Here is Stedman Shealy, Alabama, on the field. Coach Bryant standing under the goalpost, sucking that Chesterfield from his big toes.
I used to love when Keith Jackson and Frank Royals, and and there's Coach Bryant, like okay, the smoke's gonna be coming out eventually.
Yeah. Well, Doug just said it. Jerry Duncan, Doug Layton. You know where Doug Layton was from?
I don't.
Sylacauga, Alabama. Where Jim Neighbors is from, where Lee Perryman's from, where Maury Gaston's from. Bottom line is, you just hit on it going to West Point. And Doug, I have not been up there, the Black Knights of the Hudson. That's what a lot of people, it's so beautiful up there. My great-great-grandfather was attended West Point and graduated. He was roommates with Jefferson Davis. And when he graduated, he went to the seminary in Alexandria, Virginia, became an Episcopal priest and then Episcopal bishop, and moved to Louisiana and was the first Episcopal bishop there, lived in Thibodaux for about 20 years, and then went up and helped to found Sewanee, the University of the South. But there is so much tradition there. What's it like going to school there? I mean, my God, you're walking around like everywhere you go, there's something important that you're talking or looking at.
Well, yeah, it's as much a museum as it is a campus. And when you walk in, the first thing you see is the honor code. A cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. And that's the first thing you see. And it's what you see coming in, what you see coming out. Going to a football game there is a lot of fun. It is a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere for football. It's just it starts with the parade in the morning, and then you walk up the hill past the chapel to Mikey Stadium, and watch the Black Knights. They're usually undefeated every year at home, so you usually get a win, and then it's capped off with singing the alma mater and beat Navy. So and it's only an hour north of Manhattan. So if you're ever in New York City and they're on a weekend in the fall, head up the Palisades Parkway to West Point and go to Mikey Stadium and watch the Black Knights.
And,
Mike's
guys,
Stadium. Yeah.
What I'm gonna see if y'all can guess. It's not really a trick question, but when I never miss. Sometimes I have to DVR it, but I never miss watching the great Army Navy game, because you think football season's over and there's one more big Saturday, and that's just phenomenal. But what see if y'all can guess what fascinates and to a degree pisses me off the most when I watch Army Navy play. Anybody got a guess?
They both run the wishbone.
No. Well, I mean, y'all are right, but what I had in mind was, for the most part, and I'll look it up statistically and chime back in before we sign off, but those two programs, I would say especially Army, they prove that you're not required to have 7 or 8 procedure penalties jumping off sides. It just almost never, of course, the word discipline comes to mind, but you can coach players that it's completely unacceptable, like the great John Heisman in practice with the football. Gentlemen, if you fumble this ball, it would be better if you had died as a small boy.
Yeah,
He really said that.
What's great about, there's so many great things about the Army Navy game, but I think one thing that's sort of missed, to Doug's point, is that there's such a parity in the athleticism of the two teams, and of their mental DNA and their discipline and the coaching style, that it's usually a game played without too many mistakes, but there's so much effort, and sometimes effort leads to mistake, and usually one mistake decides the game.
The game.
Late in the, happened last year. I mean, Navy was going in to win, in double overtime, and they fumbled, just as they were going over the goal line. We got the ball. We get the ball back, kick a field goal, and win the game. And we won our 5th time in 7 years, which is fantastic. But we were outplayed all game and got lucky at the end. So that's part of the beauty of Army Navy.
Well, you also don't have to worry about really the portal or the NIL. I mean, I'm telling you folks, it's already starting to work itself out. People, it's always darkest before dawn. And getting into college football, you're talking about Alabama, about LSU, Tennessee. I think they're coming back. They proved it last year with an 11-2 record. They beat a Clemson team that was 11-2, the ACC champion.
Great two-game finish. Great two-game finish for Tennessee.
I don't think anybody saw the South Carolina Le Massacre that occurred, that took down their quarterback in the second half, Hendon Hooker. And looking around the conference, guys, I don't call it parity, but look in baseball. Here you are rewarded for playing the toughest schedule. In football, we're going to go to a 9-game schedule. When Texas and OU come into the league, it's going to be in the conference schedule. Yeah, not 9 regular games. But we think it's fun now, guys. How much more fun? I think it's going to be off the charts fun. It's going to be widespread hysteria. It's going to look me off. I love it.
Guys, I told you I'd peek NCAA stats 2 years ago. This is the fewest penalties per game. It's all fewest penalties per game. Army second in the nation, fewest penalties, 3.8. That's ridiculous. I think Coach Saban, a few of those games last year, wouldn't like to have Army's penalties
for the whole season.
And then Air Force was 6th. and Navy was ninth. And then this past year that you could jump, they were all top 5 or 6, fewest penalties per game. So they proved that it's possible. I don't know, maybe referees, when they see those cadets and the military playing, that maybe there's something emotionally that happens to referees that they'd rather not penalize them. I doubt it. I think they're just disciplined teams.
I think it's this one.
Yeah, it's and we're super excited about our Army team this year. But we have a brutally hard schedule. It's our hardest schedule probably ever. 24th hardest schedule in the country, and Air Force and Navy are all like 110, 115. Yeah. In addition to LSU, we're playing Syracuse on the road. We're playing Boston College,
Tulane
Wake
again.
Forest.
And Tulane on it again?
Not this year, but Texas San Antonio, who's a really good team.
Yeah,
Coastal Carolina. I mean, it's a gauntlet. So if we go 7-5, that'll be like us normally going, 10-2.
Well, think about this.
Dave, you know what really hurts Alabama's strength of schedule?
What's that?
They don't have to play Alabama.
That's good. You know what, Dave? Think about those 2 games you mentioned about the penalties last year with Alabama. I remember, I think the Texas game, they had 17. Tennessee, they had 15. That's 32 in 2 games. I was in Knoxville in Neyland Stadium, and I was watching Nick Saban. He was apocalyptic. I mean, he was almost catatonic on the sidelines. Just, God almighty, how many times do I have to tell you? That is a hard thing. But what I love about the service academies, you see it with VMI, you see it with the Citadel too, because a lot of my family went to VMI as well. These guys love the game, and it's just and they respect it. It's just they're just great people to be around. I mean, when I go to VMI, I get chills, man. And I never went to school there, but my grandfather, his brother, his grandfather, his great-grand. I mean, when I go there, I feel that tradition in my bones. My mother's favorite thing when she went to Hollins College in Virginia was to go over Thursday or Friday afternoons and watch the VMI band parade on campus and play the Welsh Colander. It'll give you chills. And if you can ever go there.
Aggie band. I mean, I love them.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. It's unreal.
Want to beat them, but I love the band.
Yeah. Definitely want to beat them, but I'll take the band any day.
Hey, guys, when you're and Dave will love this snarky comment, which is a left-handed compliment to the Crimson Tide. But Commissioner Sankey, if y'all remember Fonzie in one of the late Happy Days episodes when Fonzie jumped the shark and a powerful new meaning, Commissioner Sankey may have jumped the shark in the last couple of weeks. He wants to kill on home fans rushing the field after a big win. Now, in recent years, thanks to Coach Saban, there's one team that tends to have the home fans rush the field more than any other, and that's Alabama for obvious reasons. So, but where Sankey went over the deep end is suggesting as a potential sanction, if you rush the field, it's not $100,000, $250,000, because you can, if you win a kick six game, you probably got money that's going to be pouring in that you can afford $1 million. And but he said we will let that team that rushes the field forfeit a home game in a subsequent year. Are you serious?
Wow, wow.
I mean, come on. I mean, and by the way, the number of fans that were compelled and required to go down and rush the field, zero. So let's quit trying to make life risk-free and let people have some freedom.
Yeah. Well, let me say this too. That is the Burgermeister declared there would be no Christmas one time in that Christmas town, whatever. No more fun of any kind. We can't do this. Look, I'm gonna tell you what I'm sick of. And Doug, thank God you just laid out that case. I am so damn tired of being told what we can't do. And you can't do this. You can't do that. Hey, shut up. Let's find excuses to win. What can we do? Whatever's necessary. Storm in the field. Maybe you hold up 5 minutes, let everybody off the field. But you know what? That's part of the college game. Okay? Just like they play Dixieland Delight at the Alabama home football games. They can't ever take that tradition away. The Southeastern Conference is about to find out when Disney comes on board. Right back in a moment. Okay, Rob Browne back here with this distinguished panel, man. It is Rapid Fire Saturday. And, there is Stedman Shealy and Dave Tompkins on another touchdown. Alabama 84, Virginia Tech 3. My brother-in-law played
first and through like a tank.
Well, my brother-in-law played against Virginia Tech in 73 or 74 on that team, and they were beaten 77-3. He said it was awful. I got beat up so bad, and I got hurt in the locker room and gave me a shot of cortisone and said, "Get back out there." I said, "Out where?"
That was played at. It was not called Bryant Denny Stadium back then. It was called Denny Stadium, and the city was about 55,000.
Yeah, it was not big, guys. Doug just laid it out. Doug is great at translating from the pen and paper into the spoken word, but he's right. And Frank, you know it. I mean, and Doug, am I correct? Have we lost Dave Tompkins? But I want to know this, Doug, has Auburn only stormed the field in their school history twice? At Auburn, I'm not counting Legion Field 1982 when they broke the streak against them, but at Jordan Hare, it was the kick six, and then in 2019 are the only two I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think, and that's an important point. There's this great saying I love to use that I wish I could claim as my own original, but a lot of what you see nowadays in this response, if they're honest, to like this, and I don't mind this particular rule proposal that's under consideration, and that is to let the clock continue to run after first downs until you get to 2 minutes before the half or 2 minutes before the end of the game. Honestly, I'd almost rather them just say, well, instead of 15-minute quarters, we're going to have 14-minute quarters and let real football continue as we know it. But back to your question, I think in the case of Auburn, this is a problem, or a solution in search of an actual problem. And, when nothing is particularly broken, you should be very careful with a great game like college football to start tinkering with it and end up having pressure to reverse course. I feel that way to some extent about the nature of the targeting rule. Not that targeting can't be a rule, but I think it somewhere along the way it put too much power in the hands of the proverbial command centers to make decisions that affect game outcomes. So I'd rather see the game for the most part left alone and just tweak things that really enhance fan engagement. To your question, I can only count at Jordan Hare Stadium I want to say two Iron Bowls. The 20. Obviously, if anybody has a problem with fans rushing the field after the kick six, then they really need to see their physician.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most dramatic finish of any game in any sport. I'll argue that with anyone. I'm not saying it's better than the U.S. Olympic team beating the Soviets, but that was not a walk-off type of finish.
I'm shocked not every resident of the state of Louisiana got in their cars and drove to Auburn to get out and rush the field.
Yeah. And so, but there too. And Rob, here's what's fascinating. That I'm pretty sure somebody can fact check me, your text message from Slim Pickens will clean this up if I'm wrong. But Auburn has not rushed the field following a Georgia win that I can remember.
Never.
Now, the Georgia fans were on the field after they beat us, and we had to hose them down.
Hose them down.
1986. 86.
Hose them down. Hey, by the way, they might need a good hosing right about now, too.
Yeah. Hey, here's something to keep in mind. This just came in because Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, one of America's distinguished on the Mount Rushmore of sports writers. But this is an interesting thing that just came in from one of our listeners. Mississippi man, Louisiana woman, Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn says, no danger of losing a home game by a conference member. Call me the first time they follow through on that one. I'm going to throw it to the man from Ocala, Florida, a fourth-generation Floridian. He ain't some guy that just moved down there because he didn't like the snow in New York. He's born and raised down there, and what brought Buddy Martin to Ocala was the rich limestone in the soil. Buddy, how are you?
Good morning. I just found out there this week I'm about 7 generations because I got to count my other side of the family.
There you go.
We had a family meeting of the Thomases who fought the Civil War. And that's another story. Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning, buddy. Hey, buddy, I hope you got some agent commission on that AR-15 deal.
I got the pleasure of getting to watch him play. That was what my commission was. And that was a great moment. I'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to say, nobody rushed the ice at Lake Placid because I was there and I didn't see it. Okay. But if you're ever going to rush the ice, that was the night to do it.
Absolutely.
And I was
That's the greatest quote I've ever heard.
I will say this. I was hanging literally from the grandstand watching the last 6 minutes of that particular event in Lake Placid with my team from the Daily News because I had arrived late. Although I had a ticket, a media pass, imagine, to go watch the game. I was watching it on closed circuit. My friend and I, Bill Madden, who was a baseball writer, and we were writing features for the Sunday paper. And we said, if it gets close, we're going to go. And so they tied the game. I got my boots and jacket on and stuff and hiked up the hill, straight up about 100 yards to the sky. And I got there and I said, now that I'm here, how will I get in? I got in. There was no seat in the press row. I climbed up on the side of the grandstand and hung on and watched the last 6 minutes of America winning that champ. By the way, that wasn't for the gold. That was
semi. Yeah.
And so that moment was great. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm not so sure. How about if you rush the field if you're a visiting team? Think about that. What times could that have? I thought, well, probably Auburn in 94 would like to rush the field and they beat Steve Spurrier in an upset.
Yeah.
A few of my buddies did that Gainesville back in '86, and we had to come up with bill money.
Yeah, and they were pretty tough. Jeremy Foley put a kibosh on that.
Yeah.
You know, I won't say he would hose you down, but he'd done everything else to get you not to do it. And the school did not allow that at all. Now, there's a certain sadness about that because, as Doug says, the kick six, how could you not rush the field? You take a donation up and pay the fine. Now, you're right. Let's see if they have the cojones to take a home game away. But it is something that is concerning people. You know, I'm going to say one other thing. I think it's exaggerated on how many injuries they've been, okay?
Yeah.
Because they like to sing that insurance purposes, right? They it's dangerous. I get hurt. I don't know. Maybe a few cats have gotten hurt. A lot more of them have gotten hurt by having too much to drink, you know, and wandering out someplace. So I think they've exaggerated it for insurance purposes. And I'm not so sure I want to see it never happen again, but I understand the concern.
But, buddy, what I would say, what pisses me off is that if it's really the basis is to prevent potential serious injury or death, and you follow that logically through, then there should be a move to get all automobiles, combustion engine automobiles, off the road. Okay. And of course, I'm being facetious, but there in a stadium, you've got 80 to 100,000 people. The idea that those people up in the stands that never come on the field, something could happen that people fall and trample and get hurt that way. So you're assuming risk when you walk in. Rob, do you remember the was it 96, the barn that on fire when we played?
I was there.
Well, my dad my dad knew structural engineering, and we were sitting on the press box side, not where the fire was. And as it was coming up, it fooled you how close the flames might be to the stadium. I said, Dad, how strong is concrete when heat is applied? And he said, it should be okay, but not indefinitely if that fire keeps going.
I can tell you,
this.
I was in that upper deck, and I felt that heat. And let me tell you, I wasn't on the side with the fire. I was on the other side, about the 10-yard line, and I can tell you right now, I felt that fire. I felt that heat.
Well, let me say this about me. I will do anything. I will stand outside before I sit in section 31 again at an Auburn LSU game. I was in section 31 the night the barn burned in 96, and I was in section 31 September 15th of 2018 when LSU beat Auburn 22-21 on a last-second field goal. And, gentlemen, it was no less than 183 degrees with the wind chill that day. 2,600 people went down with heat casualties. Buddy Martin, you emailed me a copy of a column that you wrote about Anthony Richardson. And I want to tell you, guys, y'all have got to subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com. We all miss the newspaper. My 94-year-old dad every day goes, boy, we don't get a damn paper every day. He goes, tell me what's going on. And then I go, oh, go to what'sgoingon.com. And he always goes, boy, he goes, I think you need to take care of that for me. But bottom line, buddy, you're so damn talented as a writer, and I mean that. But Ben Troop, Franz Beard, and you, I've learned a lot about Anthony Richardson. He's not a finished product, and nobody ever is. But the package is there and the right fit. But you talked about his journey through life, and Ben Troop talked about how his teammate Ventrell Browne there in Gainesville is going to be helping, manage and guide AR. I'm excited about this, and I hope he does well because, he got in trouble for speeding. Golly, when I make my first mistake in life, let me know as well. Yeah. But thank you for writing that article, buddy. And thank God you're okay from the accident you were in last week. Yeah. And I hope everything's getting better for you because you're a treasure.
Well, thank you. Today's my birthday, and I said I'm thankful.
Happy birthday.
I survived both the little heart incident I had about 2 months ago, and then, of course, survived the accident. I'm glad to be here, and I feel full of joy that I'm able to do this and talk about it and write about it and see players, phenomenal players like Anthony Richardson, by the way. And when we have another time, another day, I'll tell you how I almost got killed at LSU. And so we'll walk to the press box. But anyway, so a night when they had 80,000 people outside the stadium, okay, not just in it. But, so here's the deal. I know this is probably boring to a lot of people who are not fans, but I think if you care about the character and individual, we all inflate that and talk about how wonderful people are. Let me just tell you the essence in a few seconds what I wrote about, why I wrote about. Anthony Richardson is kind of miscast as early on as a guy who was kind of wild and reckless and not responsible and whatever. But I'm going to say this to you: when you were 19, did you ever go over the speed limit? Okay. Yeah. Anthony Richardson, by the way, who is now today 33 times over a millionaire. How about that? Yeah. And never could get in the right groove at Florida to do what we know he's capable of because we saw it with our naked eye. He, like I said, is able to leap buildings with a single bound. He's faster than a speeding bullet. I mean, he is amazing as an athlete. For whatever reason, the mysteries of life, he couldn't be translated to reach all that potential while he was playing at Florida. People are still damn mad at Dan Mullen for not getting him on the field. Billy Napier tried, and toward the end, he began to begin to get it and play better. And finally, they ran out of time, and they didn't get it done. Now, of course, as you know, I got to tell you, Gator fans were so proud to see that young man walking across that stage and looking sharp, clean, beautiful, conservative gray suit, white turtleneck, humbled. Just his appointed time was now. That was his moment, and he was ready for it, and he will be ready for it. And I'm just to say this: I don't know how great he'll be. He's a much better player than you saw in college. As you know, he broke the records at the combine, all the measures, broke them all. There was even some other, I wrote about this, Rob, in the column, a Navy cryptologist who devised his own system for measuring things. He said there's never been a quarterback as good as Anthony Richardson in all of his, whatever he does, the cognitive test and all that. Anyway, it was a proud moment. I just wanted to be able to say at that moment that this young man, look what he did. He got a Dodge Charger NIL deal. They gave it to him. He got in the car one night going home at 2:00, wasn't drinking, and got a heavy foot and was going 100 and something miles an hour and got a ticket for it. 2 weeks later or whatever, he was driving a Toyota. He gave it back. Okay. He had incidents like that, several things that happened in his life. He was given a nickname, AR-15. He was given it. Soon became aware that this was a weapon of mass destruction. Dropped that nickname, says, I don't call me that anymore, right? He has hired Browne, who's one of the finest young men I know anywhere. Played for Urban Meyer, a little defensive back. Urban Meyer loved him so much, he said, Browne is the face of Florida football back when he played. Vernell was an administrator there. He helped the coaching through life, and now Vernell's got himself a payday, and he's going with Vernell. He's going with Anthony to Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson, who didn't always do things right, is doing everything right. That's what you want to see in a young man. I'm happy for him. If you haven't seen it, you probably haven't. One of the most tender moments I've seen when after the draft, they sat him down, and his little brother read a letter to him about what he meant to him. He bawled his eyes out. Those are real tears. He was so proud of his young little brother. That's who Anthony Richardson is. That I don't know. I really don't know him. I'm just saying I couldn't be more proud to be a Gator than right now.
He's a kid you really can root for. Yeah. He really is.
But, buddy, I'm going to be rooting for Richardson because I love to see these guys that they fulfill all their fine human potential. Sometimes that happens in college. Sometimes it's delayed until the NFL. But my question to you, and I want to word it artfully so I don't seem like a smart ass, but to the extent that the Colts brain trust, buddy, believes, like a lot of these NFL franchises, that they are just uniquely good at correcting mechanics, footwork, demeanor, whatever the demons were athletically, not off the field. I'm talking about athletically. Whatever held Richardson back from being, throwing at a higher percentage and winning. To what extent is a criticism of Billy Napier and his offensive brain trust that they were not able to get more out of Richardson? Is that unfair? And if so, why?
Not unfair. It's a great question, and it's one we can't answer. We don't know why. You think, here's a guy, and I wrote this last week. What if he goes on with the Eagles or goes on with the Colts? His coach came from the Eagles, Steicher. What if he goes and wins 3 Lombardi trophies? Okay, and brings it back to Gainesville, literally, and said, okay, well, he couldn't win but 6 games as a college player, but he won 3 National Football League championships. I mean, I'm just saying how ridiculous it could get. And you're right. What is the key?
Hold that thought, buddy. We're going to take a quick break and come back because this is what I want to hear. Great question from Doug, and I want to hear the rest of this right after this quick break. Rob Browne back with the round table. Hollywood Squares here. Frank Duffy, Doug in New Orleans, Doug Dean in Birmingham, Buddy Martin, Ocala, Florida in the studio. Dave Tompkins had to get off. He's got guests coming over there in the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina. Want to say, if you're out and about today, get out to the historic square, Collierville, Tennessee, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. The website is outstanding, but it doesn't even scratch the surface for the inventory they have. Second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. Old South jean gear, Devil Dog jeans. You already feel good about yourself. If you're a 34, you wear a 32. You get my drift. They have more duckhead than anything I've ever seen. Justin, Stetson, you name it. They've got the biggest selection. It's over 7,000 pairs of boots. There's always a lot happening. Charles Hall and his wife, the owners. Charles Bennett has been out there 23 years. Raven, it is a family business. You will love it. It is America the way it's supposed to be on the historic square. HewlettandDunn.com. They will ship to anywhere. And all that cool stuff you see on Yellowstone that Rip wears, you can get it. Kimes Ranch, all of that. Taylor Sheridan would be proud. John Wayne, Matt Dillon, they'd all be proud to shop at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the square. Buddy, you were on a roll about Anthony Richardson, and I think you said something about he went to East Side High School in Gainesville.
Correct.
I know about PK Young and Buchholz, and those are the
Buchholz and Gainesville High School. Gainesville High School.
Yeah,
I played against
all these
Gainesville
two.
High School.
Yeah, but you wrote that story about Anthony and Ben Troop. Y'all have had Anthony Richardson on the show before, and then Ben Troop and you and Franz Beard and all talking with him. There's a lot of reasons, but for one reason, one thing for sure is there's a lot of people that love this young man. Doug just nailed it. Why he's pulling for him. And my faith is in people. I believe in people. I don't believe in institutions. I don't believe in governments. God first, but I believe in people. And that's why your story, people say, well, man, he's not a finished product at quarterback. No, he's not. But he's 21 or 22 years old, and he's got everything God could give a quarterback.
He does that. And I think about my friend Terry Bradshaw when he came up. He think he was prepared, and no, he went through abject failure, benched and humiliated and called dumb 3 or 4 years before he ever got a chance. This young man's got a lot. Now, look, I don't know how he'll do. I mean, I'm not a wizard, but I think Doug asked a great question about Shane Steicher, who's supposed to be the genius, the latest genius, in the passing game. What he did with Jalen Hurts. It's a running offense, basically. The quarterback to run now because it's a lot safer. They got better gear, and remember, Jalen Hurts was, scored a whole 13 touchdowns or something running. So Anthony Richardson is, if you have not seen the guy run with the football, I mean, it looks like something out of a fictional movie. It weighs 244 pounds of blue steel running down the field like I said, a Bugatti, like a race car. So I don't know, but Steicher supposedly, now his Eagle offense was awfully impressive. I didn't see a lot of Eagle games. I saw a little bit. Maybe he's with the right guy. And guys, isn't that the key for a quarterback? You need to be in the right offense and the right coach. Is he the right one? I don't know, but apparently it was so important to Steicher that the Indianapolis Colts plane was double parked at the Gainesville airport for 2 weeks. They thought it was a new Airways, Colts Airways, to come to see study him, and they got him. They couldn't find everything they saw about him they loved. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But it's a nice story. I don't know Anthony as a person, honestly, other than that much. But I really am rooting for him, and I think a lot of people are. And proud, just honored. I could never figure out. I said, look, I'm not a genius. I'm not going to be a bandwagon jumper. But the first time I laid my eyes on him 3 years ago, I was like, I've never seen a quarterback with the potential of a guy like this. And I've covered Gator football for almost 6 years.
Buddy, I do not mind. This Auburn man does not mind you invoking, if you ever want to, the name of the great Cam Newton, when you try to project Anthony Richardson's.
That's
they're
exactly
different.
who he reminds me of.
They're not perfect comps, but when you look at that kind of size, boy, I'll never forget Gus Malzahn and that 2010 coaching staff saying that it was the South Carolina game, or was it Clemson? They said they didn't really fully understand it, but they said, oh, my God, we've got an extra running back. And all of a sudden it just gave them so many options. And you see that being done in the NFL. Do you agree, buddy?
Yeah, and I saw Cam at Florida. Don't forget, he was there. And I saw Dan Mullen coaching Cam. And I couldn't understand what his weapon was, but he was obviously everything plus,
you might have come across a common denominator, buddy.
Well, I mean, I see differences, though. I mean, I don't think it's exactly the same. I mean, certainly Cam was.
No, I meant Dan Mullen.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, and I think the accuracy thing is, certainly an issue, no question about it. It's going to be, but it's like I said in my column. It's like somebody got a new Bugatti car and said, "Well, we don't like the car. It's like the left front tire has 2 pounds of air too much, so therefore it's not a good car." I mean, you get a guy with all the gifts times 10, who set every record. You think maybe somebody could coach this guy, because I would like to have a chance at it, and you would too. So anyway, it's a mystery. It's a great question, dug by you, and we'll see what Shane Steicher's got. It's going to be a challenge. He's got to own it now.
Yeah.
If Dan Mullen would have developed this kid and started this kid, he'd still be at Florida.
Yeah, but there were some other. You talking about who? Cam?
If he would have started.
Oh, you mean now? Yeah. Well,
and he would have developed Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he sat him on the shelf. There was.
Well, he was injury prone. My buddy Shane Matthews, who does this show, we do a show together, who coached high school ball at the same time that he was playing, did say that he was hurt a lot in high school. He did get hurt a lot in high school, and whatever reason, and there were issues. But it wasn't quite as cut and dried. Now, Dameon Pierce, why didn't Dan Mullen play him? There's a question for you that everybody is still mad about. But yeah, I mean, you think, here's the thing, and I'm still mad about Trent Whittemore, who's not making the field. You got this talent. They got to get him on the field somehow. They got to figure a way to get him on the field. I'm sorry.
When he came into the LSU game at Baton Rouge 2 years ago, I was like, oh, look at this kid. Holy mackerel. And he hadn't been playing? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And it drives you crazy. Some coaches are they will not compromise about how a kid looks in practice. But some people forget, but Bo Jackson was a terrible practice player. Yeah. Who cares?
So was Danny Werfel, by the way.
Yeah.
Terrible practice player.
But come on Saturday, the kid shines.
Yeah. So it's a happy occasion right now. Let's see how it turns out. There are many broken dreams along the way in the NFL. Like I wrote in the column, the NFL draft is like part Mardi Gras, part Halloween, it's an event. It's gone crazy. I've seen it. I used to remember back in the days in New York, and they were in a hotel room, and there were 35 Jet fans out of the 50 people there. That's what it was to me when it first started.
One last question for Buddy on this point, though, before we move off. Billy Napier. Is he truly happy if the kid goes on and has success, or does he feel it's an indication that he didn't coach him up when he had him for the 1 year? What do you think, buddy?
Well, if I'm a coach, I'm always going to regret I couldn't get the max out of a guy. But Billy's not that kind of person.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He wants Anthony to do well, and he would never let that personal thing get in the way of that. So
I agree with that. I wanted to hear your take, though.
That's a good seg for me to ask more to the 2023 football season and I'm, by the way, I have not, I'm not bearish on Billy Napier. It was too early. Last year had its bumps and problems, but at Auburn, we're very familiar with that lately. Yeah. So my question is, has Coach Napier gone into the portal? Is he still working in these very few couple of remaining days? Actually, grad transfers could transfer anytime. But I think there was the sweepstakes potentially for the kid at the second teamer at Texas with a crowded QB room. Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter. Arch Manning, I'm told the Mannings want him to redshirt. But I thought I forgot his last name, Malik. The kid was, I think Florida and Auburn were interested in him if he had entered the portal. What is what is Napier doing to get the QB room ready?
Because this might be the most crucial crossroads Florida faces since the Galen Hall days this year.
Yep.
Well, we don't know. And that's the thing. He's playing his cards close to the vest. He says he's going to go get maybe another scholarship quarterback. I don't know, but we don't know the answer to that. That's the hard part about reporting his story. We have no information. It seems like he's pretty happy with Mertz and Miller. You know, would he improve it if he had gotten a kid that went to Alabama from Notre Dame? Apparently, he didn't make a bid for him. I don't know, Buckner. I couldn't tell you, but some coaches are reluctant to go get a quarterback in the portal, you know, because they had to re-indoctrinate him to their system. Here's the deal on Billy Napier, and Rob, I told you this last week. This is how I see him. You know, people who like to cook. There's some people who slow cook. Rob, you know what that's about. Sometimes you want to, you know, people want you to get the food on the table now, the baked beans and whatever. Other people say, no, the pig's going to take at least 24 hours. I'm slow cooking it. That's how I do it, you know. And apparently Billy Napier is a slow cooker. He's going to do it his way. He'll have to live with it. Whether he can win more than 6 games or not remains to be seen. I don't see it on the schedule, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not too thrilled with the quarterbacks they got. I like the new defensive coordinator, maybe what I'm hearing good things about. Can you get a team ready that fast? Well, supposedly that's what the transfer portal does, but I've not seen the evidence yet that Billy Napier has been really active in the portal at this point.
Well, it's such a crapshoot with the portal. There's 4,000 kids going into this past college football season, according to Mac Browne when he was on Paul Feinbaum's show, just out there that are orphans. I bet you 45%, 50% of these kids end up not even playing anymore. They always think, you know,
Very
just because they go the other side of the street that it's always better. You know, the grass might be greener, but you still have to cut it. You still have to maintain it and work it. Anthony Richardson is an anomaly that he stayed at Florida for 3 years. I mean, he could have said, I'm out of there. But think about the quarterback before him who waited his moment. And a lot of big turning point moments in Florida history. Doring's got a touchdown. Doring's got a touchdown. The 93 Kentucky-Florida game in Lexington, KY. And then you think about Trask. He's up there. You know, a guy gets injured. He comes in, and he leads them to a hell of a season. He paid his dues. And the slow cook, I'm a low and slow MJ over here. A brisket that weighs 15 pounds is going to probably be on the smoker for 15 hours or longer if there's too much Jack Daniels involved.
Guys, that I just checked it. Malik Murphy is the quarterback at in the amazing QB room that Steve Sarkisian has at Texas. And what I'm told probably went down is I don't know, and we have to be careful. These coaches can't go talk to a player until he's formally in the portal. But, you know, that's the most absurd. The idea that they talk through a girlfriend, a third cousin, or however they do it. But Murphy was possibly ready to go to Auburn, maybe ready to go to Florida. I think that was a sweepstakes. But when Florida, or when it became clear that Manning preferred to redshirt this year, since he might not start, Quinn Ewers is the guy, but they needed a backup QB, and I think they threw some NIL money at Malik Murphy, so there we are.
Yeah, how about the Mannings not allowing the Manning kid to take NIL money at all?
Zero
until he makes a team, then he'll let him take it. Which
is that refreshing? I would be the last
wonderful.
to judge. I'd be the last to judge a kid whose family needed money, but it's real refreshing with Arch.
Yeah, it really is wonderful.
Interesting thing about that Texas quarterback, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, out in Austin and Dallas, was at the spring game, and Anwar Richardson, OrangeBloods.com, covers Texas for us as well. Ken was talking last week about it's not close. He goes, Arch Manning is a great quarterback. He's gonna be, but he's definitely it's Quinn Ewers without the mullet, and then it's Malik, and then it's Arch, and that's a hell of a quarterback room. I mean, and Ewers, he said, is more comfortable in his skin. He's more relaxed. I think Texas, it reminds me a lot of a slingshot. They're pulling back, and there's going to come a point when they're going to let go, and you don't want to be in the way. But with a $42 billion endowment, there's no excuse for Texas not to be in the college football playoff every year.
Hey, Rob and guys, the part of this morning, which is fun, has been to talk about players that have the chance to be inspirational. I love how Buddy gave us the backstory on Anthony Richardson. I'll be doubly so pulling for him. I kind of like the Colts to begin with because I still see in my face Unitas and
Yes.
what was his name?
Earl
Morra. Backup quarterback for the Dolphins too,
and Peyton Manning, by the way.
Yeah,
there was Peyton Manning, but so I love the Colts brand. But I wanted to just this is true. You can apply it to LSU, Georgia, Alabama, whoever your team is, Florida. But to see these kids that beat such long odds to even get drafted, and then I'm referring to Derek Hall. He missed the first round, but they're lurking.
Nice story.
Lurking on day two was the great Pete Carroll. I think, man, imagine going from the mess that Derek Hall had to deal with between Gus and Harsin, less so, I guess, on the defensive side, but still it was he didn't get the coaching support he deserved. And he goes number 37. And if you get a chance, there's a beautiful YouTube, and it's from the Seahawks organization, and it shows the GM and then Pete Carroll. They call Derek Hall. You just hear Derek Hall. And to have Pete Carroll get on the phone with you and your family's there, and he's saying, it was so clear. They say we've been on pins and needles. We're really anxious, hoping this would work out. And they see something in Derek Hall they really like. And you know what Derek Hall said to Coach Pete Carroll? He said, and this just gets you in the feels. He said, "Coach, thank you for taking a chance on me." Is that beautiful?
Yeah, it is. We're going to take a break. We got one more segment when we come back.
I got to duck out, Rob. I got to go to a birthday breakfast tonight. So I just want to say 2 seconds real quick. Look at the Ole Miss. I talked about this last time. Ole Miss is loaded with 3 quarterbacks. How is Lane Kiffin going to take all 3 of them? And finally, I want you guys to do some homework for me. I'm doing a story on great tandems at schools. Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. What a pair. Go around the SEC. I'm going to ask you next week, what are the 2 greatest coaches in Auburn history? We know that. Who are the greatest 2 in Tennessee? Who are the greatest in Georgia? I want you guys to do a little homework. Doug, Frank, get after it.
Hey, happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
God bless you and your
happy
family.
Birthday.
Thank you, guys.
All right, final segment here on this Saturday roundtable of sidelines. And like I said, when you're cooking brisket, you got to go low and slow. But we live in a culture that doesn't want to wait for anything, Doug. You know that. Frank knows it. But when a guy like Derek Hall, you think about 2 Mississippi kids on that Auburn roster. Jarquez Hunter, cowboy is what I call him, loves riding horses. He's from Neshoba County, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Strong as an ox, just a good person. I believe he's going to have a hell of a career in the NFL. But whatever happens, he's going to be successful in life. He's a good, Wilson, I've got pictures of him over there, Sigma Newhouse. He's well respected on that campus. Okay. Derek Hall, Gulfport, Mississippi. God, Marcus Woodson recruited him. And he's the kind of kid you want in your program. And to tell Pete Carroll, thank you. It's like I tell everybody that comes on the show, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it because you don't have to do anything. It's a free country. And you see these stories about these kids going to the NFL, and there are a lot of people that help them along the way. But I love what Charles Barkley told a group of NBA rookies he was invited to speak to a couple of years ago. And he said, look, y'all got all this money, all these people coming at you and tugging at you, friends you hadn't heard from since kindergarten. And I'm going to tell you something. He goes, you need one house, you need one car, and you need one bank account. Kind of keep it simple. And you think about Anthony Richardson is a millionaire now, as they say, 33.9 times over. And I think 20 million of that is a guaranteed signing bonus. Now, when he looks online on his online banking app for, the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills or whoever he works with, that's going to mess with his head. And I think that it's just really cool to think about that. The people, but you know what? I think about you got to keep calm. If you're a surgeon, I think about Dr. Waller May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa, Northport, since 1964, 2 locations. No matter where you live, if you love your dogs and your cats, I don't care if you got to travel across the country or travel 47 minutes from Birmingham, go to the May Veterinary Clinic. I've seen them do miracles on dogs and cats. And they ain't been in business since 1964 because they're lucky. They'll outwork anybody. And I also want to say something to you. If you ever go to Auburn, go to Biddy and Bo's Coffee in Auburn. That's Guy and Beverly May. That is a place where you need to go and patronize them. You'll see every coach at Auburn, Bruce Pearl, Butch Thompson, Greg Williams, equestrian 6-time national champion coach. There are a lot of good stories out there, people. Doug, you and Buddy Martin, it's rare to see people who can write. And I'm not sucking up to you, not asking for a donation for the Moose Lodge or anything like that. But it's very difficult to be able to write. Somebody asked me this last night. I was on a discussion. I said, why are so many writers? It was a friend of mine. It's difficult for them to communicate. And I said, well, a lot of them are very pensive, like engineers and accountants. They're not boring people. People always say they get excited about boring things. But if you need a building built right, you better get engineers. If you need your taxes done, get a CPA. But you and Buddy together, we need to start having y'all kind of do a little point counterpoint. Great stuff.
Hemingway said that writing's real easy. All you got to do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for the kind words, Rob. I'm not in the same. I still want to be Buddy when I grow up, if you will, in terms of writing. But he's got a minute or two ahead of me, so I'm not going to concede yet. But I think most writers, the really gifted writers, probably lean heavily introvert. So many gifts, but the same spirit. We all need a Frank Duffy to run interference and work the room like an extrovert, and that's what Duff. I most of my best friends are extroverted because I'm already in my head enough as it is.
I look. I'll tell you what I did see this morning. You talk about extroverts. Some of the best, writers. A lot of them, they think so much. It is hard. But I think about this one. Y'all ready for this guy? You ever heard him?
Pay attention to me when I'm talking. This boy doesn't pay attention. Nice boy, but he doesn't listen to a word you say.
By the way, the great Mel Blanc, his voices were absolutely incredible. All the different voices that he did. He was Barney on the Flintstones as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was Barney on the Flintstones.
Wow.
Damn. And now we do know this. Josh Heupel was Bobby Hill on King of the Hill. I confirm. Doug Dean confirmed that through channels. Bobby on King of the Hill.
By the way, did y'all ever see the meme? This was like about a year or two ago of what the SEC coaches would be
Yes.
if they were not SEC coaches. And Hypo was a plumber.
You remember what Nick Saban was, don't you?
Funeral director, wasn't it?
Yes. We're so sorry for your loss here.
Well,
that's right.
Right. What I don't want to draw the wrath of any, fanboys about Saban or Kirby Smart or anybody in particular, but we do need to remind ourselves that a lot of these head coaches began their career as high school PE teachers.
Yeah.
And that's honest work.
And unpaid interns, graduate assistants on staffs. I mean, think about
and
it.
Some of them played, but most of them did not have stellar college football playing careers.
Yeah.
You know what is really cool with both of y'all on here? And, we've got listeners in all these SEC schools, AAC, Big Ten, Gulf South, Sun Belt, Big Ten, Pac-12, Big 12, Big East, Southland, Southern Conference, is that the more we do this show and the more guests that we have on here and we build this team organically, when the number one thing that I've learned, and I was taught this the very first day I was an intern at Channel 3, WREG TV3 in Memphis, and at WRBL in Columbus, is never let a politician grab the microphone from your hands. Okay. The second one, the most important thing I've ever been told is when you're interviewing somebody, like when you're talking to a client or prospective client, just let them talk. And there may be a pause there. They call it a pregnant pause. Mm-hmm. And just let them finish, because the best, you just said it. Hemingway said, the thing about writing is it's easy. All you do is get on the typewriter and just bleed. Let your raw emotions come out. When I watch MJ cooking a brisket, 15 hours. By the way, what he did last Saturday, going over to win with Darlene and Walter Hill on the people from the tornado, he cooked 8 butts, which will feed about 200 people, and he cooked 377 hamburgers to help people out over there. And thank you, Frank and Doug, as every penny, there's no administrative costs. We don't do that here. Every bit of that money we have fed, I did a calculation,
awesome.
close to 3,000 people with that money from you and everybody that helped out. So we live in the greatest country in the history of the world.
Rob,
we're blessed.
It did concern me mildly that a day or two after Duff and I contributed to, you had this beautiful Armani suit on.
Yeah. No, that was MJ.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, every single time we took him over there to win, he goes, "I'm Michael Jordan." And everybody go, "Man!" I'm William Michael Jordan, Irish Catholic pawn salesman. But
and it wasn't an Armani suit, Doug. It was an Omani.
Yeah. And trust me, MJ has not worn a suit in a while. We live in the remote, come into the office when you can days.
You're getting a little sloppy, which is fine, about referencing companies, vendors who are potential sponsors. But in that spirit, I've got to ask, back to Buddy's story about Anthony Richardson. Yeah. Was Buddy sponsored by Dodge Charger or Toyota today?
I don't know, but he said he had a Dodge Charger and he went and got a Toyota. And I wonder if he purchased it from our good friends at RedRiverFordToyota.com, Quinn, Arkansas, 45 minutes from Memphis.
Nice.
Remember the old Tonight Show? The Tonight Show when David Brenner would be out there and he'd go, by the way, I'll be at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas Thursday through Sunday. Tickets are available. And they'd go over there to the couch and Ed McMahon would be about, 3 sheets to the wind. And Johnny Carson would go, I did not know that.
Always be selling.
Well, was it ever?
I do know that Buddy's not shilling for the American Rifle Association.
No. Let me say this too, that when you watch the old TV shows, and I look at like our moms and our dads, our moms, that's the best looking group of women ever. When you watch Leave It to Beaver, I mean, how many people come home nowadays to a woman in the house that looks like June Cleaver. So I'm watching Leave It to Beaver yesterday, and Ward was going, well, you know, Wally, a woman's place is in the home, and your mother is much better in the kitchen than me. And he goes, is that why you come out here and cook on the grill? He goes, well, it's more to get in touch with our caveman instincts, Wally. You see, fire, and you don't want to get rough. And he goes, and because we're tough, we're males. And he goes, okay. He goes, hey, Wally, would you hand me those asbestos gloves? And he goes, Dad, he goes, well, I don't want to burn my hands.
Hey, Rob and Duff. Back, this is funny as hell. I know we're close to the end here, but you know what quarterback no one is talking about much in the draft that could very well end up being a year or two from now being the one we look back and say, wow.
Will Levis?
Who?
Will Levis?
Well, maybe him. I had in mind Hendon Hooker. I know he had the ACL, but my goodness, he's got the measurables, the mobility, the big arm, and he was coached by Heupel. So the last time, now they might say, well, it's Heupel's system. Last time the draft experts said that about a QB, it was Patrick Mahomes.
Correct.
The Texas Tech system is the reason he put up thousands of yards and 41 TDs. So I'm going to keep an eye, not this coming season with the ACL that's still getting healed, but a year from now, 2 years from now, what do we think about Hendon Hooker?
And they said that about Lamar too.
I will say this about Hendon Hooker. He tore his ACL, and again, I'm not a doctor, but we know from experience, from listening to doctors like a James Andrews or Rob Pickering or Dr. Tyler Ellis, who's going to be one of the Ole Miss doctors next year. 85% of the recovery comes in the first 3 months. It's that other 15 to 20% that takes 8 or 9 months or longer. That's the thing he's got to overcome. But mentally, I'm not sure if he is a theology major or whatever. He is very grounded, strong Christian man. Virginia Tech from Greensboro, North Carolina. I believe, Doug, you're right. And I didn't mean to jump on you on saying Will Levis. I think Hendon Hooker is a guy that you're talking Warren Moon type of smarts.
We'll go back and look at that play in the NFL, boys, razor thin, the difference in big games. And that final, when Alabama got the lead and Hooker, they didn't settle for trying to get to overtime or get in field goal range. He just threw strikes down the middle and showed so much guts in a big moment like that. So those are the things that don't show up in an NFL combine.
Yeah.
The guy that I saw came in and played LSU in Tiger Stadium and won by 40, whatever it was. That was an NFL quarterback that I watched.
Yeah. And I agree. And let me throw this one to you, Doug. And we're going to do some rapid fire from here on out on the show. We're going to be quick. Okay. Ole Miss. You talked about that quarterback room. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. And you've got Walker Howard from Lafayette coming up there. You've got some talented players. Lane Kiffin gets it right with the quarterback. The schedule this year is brutal. Does he win more than 8 games?
I'm dubious about that with who they've got to play. I don't think Kiffin wins in Jordan-Hare Stadium for starters, and that might be the swing game for 8.
I think they hit 8. I think they hit right on the number.
Yeah, because last year their schedule was front end was easy, the back end was brutal. So
we derailed them. Them.
Let's talk Texas A&M. We had Olin Buchanan, Texags.com on during the show, I guess on Wednesday. Fantastic segment. Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher.
What could possibly go wrong?
I agree with that, but I like what Olin has been around. Olin is a fantastic writer. If y'all haven't heard him, he knows A&M. He was with the Austin American Statesman for 12 years with Kirk Bowles. Really knows Texas. He's from White Oak. Question I have for you, Doug, and then to Frank, and that is Bobby Petrino. If he's left alone, now Gus, we're gonna get butter. If he's left alone, how good can A&M be?
Well,
offensively,
the great Tony Barnhart, who was on your show just before me this early in the week, I think had it right. And these things, there's always some hyperbole, but that it will either be a smashing success with Petrino because Jimbo allows him to do his thing and they collaborate well, or by middle of the season, if there's some bad moments and Jimbo.
Yeah.
I know where Doug was going with this, or it's going to be a train wreck on the side of the road that you got to slow down and look at.
Thank you for
the
color. I just think, and I personally think it's going to look more like when Gus said he was going to bring in help, but didn't really empower them to do their job.
Yeah, guys, we've run out of time. Mildred just showed me the stopwatch here. Wow, this has been unbelievable stuff. Get you guys back on during the week with us. We got a stacked lineup coming up this week. But let me say this. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Quit listening to all the negativity, okay? Do yourself a favor. Turn it off. Go outside. Pray. Meditate. Do whatever you got to do. Clear your head.
Shout at a cloud.
Yeah, shout at a cloud. Get off of my lawn. But remember, junk in, junk out. Positive in, positive out, okay? So we're back Monday morning. Take Sunday. Be with your family. Go to church. But again, don't give to get, give to give. It's been an unbelievable show. And if your head isn't spinning from all the thinking, from all these great minds like Dave Tompkins and Buddy Martin and Frank Duffy and Doug Dean, your head needs
to put your money on Angel of Empire and thank you later.
You got it. We're out of here. See you Monday.
Have a good one.